Welcome to Eye on the Illini, folks. This is the post game that we've been wanting to have, that we have been expecting to have, that we have been hoping to have, that we have been begging to have. The Illini play to the caliber that a lot of us thought they had. They play in a game that is on the road at a place that is not the easiest to play against a Minnesota team that up at home beat just on Thursday, January 16th. They beat Michigan in overtime up there. On Saturday, January 25th, they beat Oregon up there. And there's a couple other wins they had. They beat Iowa, but does that count anymore? They also beat Penn State, but that's not a big deal. But this is a Minnesota team that has played well at home, and Illinois took them apart, and that was a very nice thing to see. Ked, how do you describe this when this team goes out and scores 95 points? They end up just really having just quite the game. And when you look at it, they end up at 1.156 points per possession, and they do it they were at 1.610 points per possession, which is incredible. And they did it by only shooting 16 threes. What happened tonight?
Mike, you did a remarkable job of explaining the entire introductory to this podcast. But you just answered it. They shot 16 threes. That's it. You answered the question you're asking me.
But there was one other thing they did tonight, Ked, that I think was just as important.
What's that, buddy?
They cut down those dang turnovers.
Yes, they did. But the 3-point field goal attempts, I know the coaches, not just Illinois, these coaches, they're sports fans. They can say they don't read the papers and what we write. They do. People saw what Robbie Hummel said about Illinois and their horrendous 3-point shooting percentage. Dave Resman from BTN Network said the same thing. Now, they may not have heard it today. I don't know, but they've heard it. And they're intelligent guys. It's not working. And I don't mind them shooting them. Tonight, they shot good threes. Sturdy mentioned during the halftime, I think there was only one really bad three in the first half, and I'll take that. The way they spread that floor, and I'm going to give myself a pat on the back. If Bicic he makes his team better. He is not just his scoring, his passing ability. Yeah, he had a couple late that were tough that he probably shouldn't have thrown, but I think he did that because they were up by 10, 12 points. But he spreads the floor and just makes them a much better team with his passing alone. It's hard to just say this guy doesn't matter and he's not an important part of this team because he really is. I just like what he brings to the table. But the 56% from the three-point line, when was the last time we've done a podcast where they were over 40%? I really don't remember, Mike. And guess what? They were 14-16 from the free throw line. They shot 88% from the free throw line. Now, people can say, yeah, it's Minnesota. If you look at the standings coming into the game, I don't know what they are right now. Minnesota wasn't one of the bottom three teams. And you mentioned they beat some good quality teams at home. So this was a good win for Illinois. They need to get healthy. And like I just put on my Twitter, the buffet line is full. And this is what you saw. This is what Brad Underwood saw. What we've all saw. Yes, it's been since the Oregon game since we've seen this, but this is possible. And if they can play like this, not every game, but just give you glimpses, you don't lose the game at Rutgers. Those things don't happen.
Yeah. Look, let's go through this just to give people a rundown because I know people ask this all the time. So Ben Humrickhouse, he had 9 points. He was 3 for 5 in shooting, 2 for 4 from the three. He had 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 foul, a block shot, and he was plus 21. Kylan Boswell, 4 points, 1 for 3 from the field, 2 for 3 from the free throw line. He had 1 rebound, 3 assists, and he was a plus 7. Ivisic was 18 points, 8 for 9 from the field, 2 for 2 from the three, had 11 rebounds, 2 assists, 4 turnovers, 1 block shot, and a steal. Morez Johnson, 4 points. He had 3 rebounds, 3 fouls, and he had a -1 in terms of plus minus. Jakucionis was 24 points, 8 for 14 from the field, 2 for 4 from the 3, 6 for 6 from the free throw line, 4 boards, 4 assists, 1 turnover, 1 block shot.
Did you say 1 turnover? I'm sorry you cut out. Just kidding.
I know, just 1.
I'm just
you
kidding.
you had Kerry Booth, 2 points, was 1 for 1, and he was a -5. And I'm sorry, KJ was plus 26. Gibbs Lawhorn was ill today, so he basically had a rebound, an assist, 3 personal fouls, a turnover. He only played 4 minutes, but he was plus 6. AJ Red was a -5 in his 1 minute. Will Riley, 27 points, 11 for 17, 2 for 4 from the 3, 3 for 3 from the free throw line, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, 1 foul, 1 block shot, a plus 23. Jake Davis was 7 points, 3 for 3 from the field, 1 for 1 from the 3, had 2 boards, 1 foul, 1 block shot, and he was plus 14. Trey White was in there very quickly, didn't really have much. And then Keaton Kutcher was 0 for 1 and had -5. So just to give you an idea, that was a really nice effort by the team. I thought they did the 2 things that we've been whining about incessantly. They ended up shooting a more moderate number of threes, looking to go inside, and they stopped turning over the damn ball. And I thought, as impressive as this game was, 95-74 victory for the Illini, I thought one of the more impressive things was Tomislav couldn't really jump. There were several shots that he would have either blocked or caused real problems on that he smartly didn't try to do anything. This could have been a much bigger score had he been physically able to play on the defensive end a little more aggressively.
Mike, you just ran through some statistics, but I want to give you a couple that really stand out to me. Illinois only had 6 turnovers tonight. And you read Will Riley's stat line, remarkable, 0 turnovers. I made a sarcastic comment about KJ's turnovers because he only had 1. The big fella had 4 turnovers, and honestly, those turnovers was because he was trying to make a pass. Now, I'm not giving him a pass, but this is going to make me sound really stupid, but I'm going to say it because 2 different guys presented this to me this year, and then I argued it. Then when I took a step back and I listened to it, I'm thinking, you know what? Maybe they make sense. If Vicic had 4 turnovers, which he did, but his turnovers are not at times where, like KJ's, where KJ just saying, here, take my sandwich and you take my lunch money and go away. They're different turnovers. And they're still a turnover, I understand it, but KJ's were just different. And tonight, when you only have 6 as a unit, I think that's something. Granted, Minnesota doesn't press you and get up in you like that because Minnesota only have 3 turnovers themselves. But statistically, they shot the ball well from the field. They were 63%, 56% from 3. They only launched 16 of them, 88% from the free throw line, 6 turnovers. I'll take that. And then you add all that with Morez Johnson getting Cinderella fouls, Draymond Gibbs Lawhorn, who wasn't healthy, and Trey White. This is the team that we all saw and think earlier in the year that we knew that could be good. And right now, I'll close with this. I love watching Will Riley and KJ have fun and be confident to make shots, to see the ball go in the basket again. It's been tough for those 2 kids, and Vicic was just really positive for both of those guys. It's a close group. They keep the locker room tight, and I can respect that.
Brad, you're obviously eyeing this game. What were your thoughts after? This is the Illini team that we were seeing at the first, in that middle part of the season, and it seems like they're back.
I thought they were, not only were they back, they were better because of the way they attacked the basket and they took threes, but they were all good threes. So it wasn't just it wasn't a fool's gold game, if that makes sense. It wasn't a game where they're just chucking threes and they're all going in. They took mostly good threes and wide open catch and shoot threes. You're going to make more of them. But they got themselves going by getting in the paint and scoring from two and then getting confident and then making shots. And so I was really impressed with the offense. Obviously, I thought the defense actually was pretty good after that first start when Minnesota scored 9 points in their first 3 possessions. And then after that, they were under a point per possession until the very end when the subs came in. But overall, this is what they needed. They needed dominant performance. It's their 4th 20-point win in Big Ten play out of their 8 wins. So it tells you that when this is why people are, and I know fans like to make fun, oh yeah, nobody's scared of this team or whatever. They've lost this, that. I'm telling you right now that every coaching staff in the Big Ten is afraid of the team that you saw tonight because when they click on all cylinders, all that talent. I mean, the first round draft picks, the KJ played like a draft pick. Will Riley looked like a draft pick. Ivisic, even though he's not 100%, was fantastic. They even got great minutes from Jake Davis and Ben Humrickhouse tonight. And they did all that. You know that they made those runs. Really, Boswell was not involved. He wasn't even in the game for a long stretch. Morez Johnson, foul trouble, all this stuff. And yet they just look like a team that's ready to burst. And if they can get healthy and everybody buys into their roles, they have a chance they still have the upside. We always talk about the ceiling is still really high.
Totally agree. Ked, what are your thoughts?
I think Brad's right. Nobody likes to see a team lose. And we've all tried to be coaches and wondering what they're thinking and to overanalyze things. But I don't regret anything that either one of us have said. I just don't. I'm just glad to see them spread the floor to attack the basket and not launch so many threes. And truthfully, it has nothing to do with me. I'm not even going to take credit for it. I thought one of the biggest things tonight that people really should take a close look at, to me, Kylan Boswell, to me, is a good basketball player, but I think his shot selection has hurt them a lot. Tonight, he shot 3 field goal attempts. He was 1 of 3. He scored 4 points. And great, you know what? And he had 3 assists. But guess what? He had no turnovers. I can take that because some of his shots, and one of the shots that he missed was a layup, which drives all of us crazy. But the shot selection matters because if you shoot bad shots, you're not making them. Those are turnovers. That's my coaching philosophy. I've always told all my teams that. If you're going to make, even when you get to the free throw line, you have to make those. They didn't shoot a bunch of bad shots. And I'll tell you what, today, another thing, KJ and I think Will Riley got Ben Humrickhouse a lot of open looks today where he didn't have to do anything except for just catch and shoot it. Those are the kind of threes I think that they've been missing because they haven't done a lot of that. It looks really good today. The offense looked tough to guard. I'm thinking if I'm a coach and how do you guard this? And then you isolate Will Riley. You get booty ball with Ben Humrickhouse. You can't stop Ivisic, who's a guy that allegedly is supposed to be injured. He was 8 for 9 from the field. And then I remember, if you guys saw it, Ben Humrickhouse gave Ivisic the business because he was perfect until he missed that layup.
Yeah. Sturdy, when you watch that second half, Jonas came back into himself a little bit. Riley was totally just on a heater. And obviously, Ivisic has been killing it. Yet Rickhouse played well today. If they've just got guys who hit their open shots, this team they're gonna take on and give anybody a really good game.
Yeah, it's a weird concept when we're talking about what a good job Humrickhouse did on Dawson Garcia. We're talking about his defense all of a sudden, which is not something I expected to be doing. Not in a positive light, usually. But I thought he did a good job. I thought they got everybody. Jake Davis, really, he is such a good offensive rebounder, getting their rim, keeping those balls alive. I thought both those guys, that's something they did a great job with tonight. So you love to see that. But offensively, not only do they score, they didn't get very many offensive rebounds in the second half because they made all their shots. They shot, over 70%. At one point, they were 74% and 67% from 3 in the second half. Those are insane numbers for a half. And yeah, I think when you see the weapons that they have, that this team has, and And you saw Dre Gibbs, Lawhorn, and Trey White did not look like they belonged out on the floor. They battled and we gave them a little time, and those guys didn't look ready to go. But yet they have so many weapons at times, guys who can go off for 20 points or 15 to 20 points, and so many different guys can do that. And so what that allows guys like, they can't run a double at Will Riley, especially when he's passing the ball. I think that's the thing the biggest change for him is now he's a distributor too. We've seen that recently. And as he starts to pass the ball, now it's harder to come and double him. It's hard to come and just attack him on that drive when he's making the correct reads. And so I think the 7 assists to me may have been more impressive than all the points because we know he can score. Now we know he can pass a little bit too. And with the way they share the ball, if they share the ball like they have been, this team has a chance to go somewhere. And here's the other part. It's going to get harder on Tuesday, though, because UCLA is tough, and they're really good defensively. They are really good, and they're going to have to be even sharper on Tuesday if they want to get that win.
I feel confident in the offense.
Yeah, you're going to earn it if you can win against UCLA. You're going to earn it. And Illinois has not played fantastic basketball at the State Farm Center. Ked, what are you expecting for Tuesday night?
I agree with Brad, but I'm also going to say when they're clicking like that, no disrespect to UCLA or Michigan State or Duke, whoever is left on the schedule, when they're running their offense the way they run their offense and guys are making wide open shots or getting to the basket, they're either going to score or get fouled. The offense that they ran today, I don't know if people have access to videotaping the games, if you can go back, if they replay it on Big Ten Network tomorrow, go back and watch how the floor was spread. Watch how Tommy Levicic passes the basketball to guys that are open. Watch how Will Riley is able to get to the basket and isolate and go one-on-one. But then if the guys get double teams, you don't see them standing there. Personally, if they're making shots like this, I don't really care who they play. I just don't. And that's saying a lot for me because I've been one of the most negative Nellies that have been out there. But right now, if they're doing this and then you get a healthy KJ who's making open looks, and I'm really happy for the kid because his ego has to have been bruised, and maybe he's a superstitious guy. Maybe that's why he took off the arm pad brace, whatever you want to call it. I don't know, but he looks really good, and it's good for the team because he makes everybody else better. And when he's making open looks and Will Riley's making open looks, again, they were 9 of 16 from 3 today. And they were not horrible shots. They were within the framework of the offense and wide open. The Will Riley pass, when he went baseline, everybody yells now and one or make the extra pass. He did that, and then Jake Davis knocks down a 3. Those are things when they missed those shots while they were losing games. You couldn't go 4 for 25 and expect to win games. Just a bad recipe.
Yeah, and I also think, again, I looked at the defensive effort was there. The rebounding was there. You had everything that you wanted. And as Brad said, that rebounding, Illinois out-rebounded Minnesota by a grand total of 38 to 26. And the reason why that was only a 12-point rebounding margin was Illinois shot 62% for the game, which means there weren't many offensive rebounds to dominate. Brad, how often has Illinois, I'm talking a guesstimate here, ended up at a 1.6 point per possession?
It's pretty rare, and especially against a conference team. I think the last time they had something like that was remember last year against Minnesota? Yeah. It was similar to this game, but they gave up almost the same number. So right. It was a little different. But so, yeah, it's not a very common thing. You don't see that in high major basketball very often. Sometimes you see it when you play a team like Chicago State or somebody and you dominate. But to do that against a Big Ten opponent, and a lot of people say Minnesota's bad. They're one of the bottom teams in the conference. That's fair. But Minnesota won 4 of 6. Michigan, they beat Oregon here in this little stretch. This is a team that's playing much better than they were earlier in the season. Yeah, I think the way you dominated, it really it was important to see. But yeah, you don't score that many points very often. The other thing is they continue to just be relentless on the glass, and Minnesota impose their will. And repeatedly, Minnesota make a little run, and they just dominate. They get a putback. They'd make a shot. And it was just, the Gophers. You could see it on their faces. They were done. They were just beaten, and that's when you know you've broken their will, and that's the coolest way to win a game.
Yeah, and one thing is, you think Sky Clark will be jacked up to play against Illinois? Because I was thinking all these Illini players have never met him before. I got to think he's probably not a big push for them to play against Sky, since only Ty and Dre were around last year.
I'll tell you this. One thing I will say is that no, they don't. But I'll tell you what, I've had a chance to talk to his dad, Kenny, often from time to time. The fans may be mad. They may boo him. I couldn't tell you. But from his standpoint, there's no hard feelings from him with the University of Illinois. If anything, if anybody can get a chance to talk to that guy, he has nothing but the most positive things to say about the University of Illinois, Brad Underwood and his staff, and how they handled his health situation. So I'm good with that. I know people are going to be mad about it, but at the end of the day, you can't be. Just real quick here, when you look at the schedule and what they've done, when Illinois went to Indiana, they scored 94 points. They played Northwestern, they scored 84 points. They put up 87 against Ohio State, and they scored 95 points today. This is a team that Brad Sturdy was just talking about why teams don't want to play them. Because if they get going and they put that ball in the basket the way they are, because I think Ohio State's a good team. And they put up 87 points. When they don't shoot the ball, like when they lost to Maryland, 70-91, and they became stagnant, that was bad. One loss that they had 78 points. We don't want to rehash that because the officials didn't want Kasparis to play. But when this team's knocking down shots, I know the opposing coaches are going to be frustrated because Tom Izzo even said before the game, I mean, he referred to Illinois as the Lakers or the Boston Celtics because they can't put the ball in the basket.
Yep, totally agree with that. We got a couple questions, Brad. I know you're driving, so you can't necessarily see them. But we have somebody. Who do you think is going to be Indiana's coach next year?
It's interesting. Obviously, they asked Dusty May about it, ironically, today, and he said he's happy at Michigan. I don't know that he would leave Michigan right now at this point after 1 year, even though Indiana would be probably a dream job for him. But I think that we've heard names like Chris Beard. We've heard Grant McCausland at Texas Tech. Chris Beard, obviously, Ole Miss. And I would say that those are guys, but I could see them going with the guy at a guy from like a mid-majors one. Remember they went with Kurt Sig, and he was like a guy who won big at a lower level. And they really think, here's the thing. If you give Indiana a really good coach, they have so much fan support, so much NIL support that I think that they can really do. They're a kind of I guess they're in that mold where Illinois was for so long, as they used to call them a sleeping giant. And I think Indiana's been asleep for a while. And now with NIL, they can really, I think they compete with anybody from that standpoint. And basketball is still huge in Indiana. And so you get a really good coach in there, and it would be scary for the rest of the league. And you could see a little triangle of the Izzo kind of getting older and fading. You could see a little triangle there with Purdue, Indiana, and Illinois being really the little triangle of like top Big Ten if Indiana gets the right guy.
I'll tell you who I don't want to see. I know if they're listening, they're probably going to hire him, wink, wink, because I said it. I don't want to see Chris Beard. I think that dude's an amazing coach. I think Brad, you're right. Indiana fan support is great. I know they're living in the past, but Illinois fans have done that as well. But that dude is a coach. They have unlimited resources. They're going to give him money. He is a guy because also what he does, he defends. You're not just going to come in and blow Indiana out anymore. If that's the guy that they take, it would make sense to me because I don't know why anybody right now, I don't care if you're in the SEC, Big 12, wherever, you wouldn't want to come to the Big 10. The money is there. The media market is there. You can recruit like no other there. He's the guy that I don't want to see. I'll put it that way.
The only problem with Chris Beard is Chris Beard. Hey, the only problem is he tends to choke. Oh no! That was different. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Then again, there's a tradition of that at Indiana. Look, I don't want to see there is one Bruce Pearl. So keep his butt down at Auburn. I do not want to see him in the Big Ten.
Mike, you just
Beyond
ruined
that,
the podcast.
I guess.
Please don't say that. You just ruined this whole podcast by mentioning that name, buddy.
Yes,
Sorry.
that's the only guy. Because I've argued for years that the best coach in basketball at any level, as long as you rule out age and activity on restaurant tables, would be Rick Pitino.
Yeah, I agree.
Because if he would have stayed at Kentucky instead of going to the Celtics, he might have won 6 or 7 titles there.
Yeah, Mike, I think you're a little premature there.
Yeah.
Well, it's good.
Yeah, we've heard Beeline as well mentioned there. I will tell you that Indiana has some marvelous funding when the Eli and Lilly families, along with Mark Cuban, and of course Mark can't be too happy throwing many of his dollars in the way of the Mavericks after the second he gives up the ownership. They trade away his favorite player. So unfortunately, Cuban may be spending more time or paying more attention to Indiana basketball than any of us would want him to.
This is the run my own business dream. This is the colleges paid for dream. This is the retire early dream. This is Busey, where your dreams and possibilities become moments through trusted guidance and expertise, through lifelong relationships. Because we're here to help you achieve the life you've always envisioned.
He has the money to help them out, I'll tell you that. And I don't want that, but I know it's time for them. When you look at, because in the old days, it was Indiana, Michigan, and the tide has changed. I know Michigan State fans some of them aren't smart to figure out, but the best team in the Big Ten in the last few years has been Illinois and Purdue. So there's somebody else that can take the reins or kind of push Illinois and Purdue a little bit. I think when you look at the grand scheme of things, the whole big picture, I think Indiana could be that team again because they still show up to games. They boo and say they want him to be fired, but they show up to games, and you saw it with the football program. That's why I said to them, I was cool with Mike Woodson. I was glad they hired him, and if they make another bad hire, I won't be mad about it because I like where Illinois stands right now. They've struggled, and I'm not worried about Brad Underwood. I'm just not. That dude is going to figure it out, and you heard Sean Morris say today, that guy will make adjustments no matter what he has to do. And one of the things he said in his post-game press conference, teams are starting to not guard Illinois from the three-point line. They're taking the ball to the basket, and so they adjusted to that. This is what I mean by saying that he's going to adjust to what teams do to him, and he just said that in his post-game press conference.
Hey, can I piggyback on that a little bit? Look at the games, whether it's the Ohio State game, whether it's this game, whether it's the last game against Rutgers. The halftime adjustments and the adjustments that Underwood has made have been really impressive. And so a lot of people don't want to a lot of people say he doesn't make adjustments. Well, because you only notice things when fans generally don't only notice things when they don't work, and they only get upset when they don't work. Sometimes things work, and you don't even know they adjusted or made a change because you just don't understand it a little bit. So this is a tough. I think he did a great job. He's adjusting as they go, and we've seen this every year where they make adjustments throughout the season to how they're going to play and what they're going to do. And we see this right now with Illinois.
Yeah, and I think the bottom line is that people, human beings in general, they look at the results and then they try to go backwards to rationalize why they happen. And sometimes you get into the point where, as a coach, you can pull the right levers, and doesn't mean you're going to win the game. And even as a player, sometimes you can go play your best and somebody just outplays you, and fans want to get frustrated. And there's a whole segment of Americans who are angry all the time anyway, and then now they're angry because their team lost. And I think at some point, Underwood, for as much as there were people who have been saying to us, Underwood needs to rip his team and all this, I just don't think. I think sometimes you just got to stand behind your guys and you got to tell them what they need to do, but you got to build their confidence publicly. And if this sticks, then Brad Underwood and the Illini staff will be well justified in how they handled the slump that the Illini went through.
They'll make adjustments. I'm pretty confident that they'll do that. I do. We've seen it. They're not going to come out. Brad Underwood's not going to come out and say, we're not going to shoot threes anymore. He's not. He's going to let his team know to be confident, but they have made adjustments. I'm not going to make that reference, but we've seen them do it. Anybody who knows anything about basketball, and if you study the game, you can see that they're not forcing threes. And we've all said this, everybody, you see a couple of shots go down, it changes the game. You saw KJ get a couple of shots to go down, and he was fluid, and then you saw Will Riley. I think he's been really good the last few games. I know the last 6-7 minutes against Rutgers he didn't score, but his confidence level right now is high, and some people want to see him start, and I'm always big in that, but this is one kid right now, I'm okay with where he is. Having him come off the bench, because it's not the end of the world. Yes, it's nice to hear your name be called in the starting lineup. I can't lie and say that it's not, but guess what? He played 31 minutes today. The only other guys that had more minutes than him was Ivisic and Ben Humrickhouse. So I'm okay with what he played. I'll take that back, KJ. So, and here's a guy that came off the bench and he got in the game really early. So I'm okay with him coming off.
Yeah, I agree with what Ken just said. I totally agree. I thought I like the way that they're figuring. Guys are starting to figure out what they can and can't do. And they run a lot of the same. They ran a lot of things like to Riley. People are like, and they run. But when things work, they keep running. I like tonight that they had a little versatility. It wasn't just KJ or just Riley. Occasionally you'd see they post Ivisic in that stretch too. So there was like a mix of styles and mix of plays. And I think it makes it really hard to defend a team when they're using different things. I thought the one thing I would say, feel like sometimes when things are clicking, they get a little bit stagnant. They keep doing the same thing over and teams start to adjust. You throw something else at them, and then you come back to it. It makes it harder to defend. We see that often in football where we set up the next play with the previous play. And this is something that I think that they did a good job of that tonight.
Yeah, let's go to final thoughts on tonight's game, and then I got a couple questions for you guys in regards to tomorrow. Ked, any final thoughts on what you are seeing, what we saw tonight in this game against Minnesota, which now looks like, oh, that was an easy game, but the Illini really needed this, and if they had lost it, it had been a big deal. And I think sometimes fans tend to poo the wins and then magnify the losses. But with that in mind, Ked, your thoughts?
I think the Illinois fans have been spoiled, and guess what? I like it. I'm here for it because they expect winning, and they have been winning. I know today some of them may say, yes, it's just Minnesota. I'm not going to rehash who Minnesota beat at home because you did it at the start of the podcast and when Brad Sturdy got on. What I like right now is that this came at the right time. They hit a wall, and right now they're playing some really good teams. And now is the time you want to get hot and start shooting the basketball. Because I can tell you, Brad has mentioned it a few times on this podcast, teams are not going to want to play them. And if they come out and do what they did tonight and spread the floor and make open shots and attack the basket, make layups, and the officials who don't like Marez Johnson, I'm going to text you this summer. We need to have a conversation about him because I want to see him play more. But my closing arguments, they're getting hot at the right time. And you need games like this, whether it was a buffet line, which I have in my bio for this podcast, to get full regardless of who it is against. This is what they needed. And this is exactly what the doctor ordered.
Brad?
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. I agree with Ken that is what they need. I think now they need to back it up with a really good performance next week. And if they do that, they're just going to gradually get healthier here. Guys get through the flu. Guys get through their mono, get through their sprained ankles, their issues with their wrist. As they get healthy, I think that's part of it too, and they'll start clicking. But they got to back this up. If they get 2 wins next week, suddenly you start looking at 18-8 and 10-6. And you feel a lot different about the rest of the year. Then they're +2 at home and road. And there's some games, obviously, home games that they can win still down the stretch. And they've got a couple of roadies that are tough. But you start thinking about this team being back on that 4, even at 18-8, because those would be quad 1 wins if they win them next week. So you're talking 2 more. That gives them, 8 quad 1 wins if they can win those 2 games next week. And with their strength of schedule, sometimes the record, as long as you've got a decent record, their strength schedule is so good, and all those quad one wins, it's hard to not seed them as a top 16 seed. And really, that's where you want to be. And if they get there, then you get a protected area too. Maybe get a game in, whether it's Lexington or Wichita or something like that. Milwaukee would be great. But so this is a great opportunity for Illinois to make a statement next week and back up what they did tonight.
And also, Mike, really quick, what Brad just said, add the fact that their two best players have missed a total of 6 games. So winning those quad one wins will give them 8, and that's not done because they have other opportunities. And the Big Ten tournament, you miss 6 games when they've lost.
And look, I know the players always want to know who's going to be on the cover of our post-game podcast. It's going to be Will Riley. I thought he played so well. That's 2 games in a row. He's made the Eye on the Illini cover for the YouTube video. So that'll give him something to be excited about.
Quite a prestigious award. Quite a prestigious award.
It is. When the players are asking about it or they talk about it, it's always good to throw that out there. I thought he earned it. Question for you guys, because we are talking about that. Let's go real quick. I want to know from Ked and then Brad who's going to win the Super Bowl and why you say that.
Philadelphia is going to win it because I think the thought of Kansas City getting here was enough to catch America's attention, but I think it's time to change the tide.
Okay.
Kansas City, just because they have Mahomes.
That's my reasoning.
They just win. It's
Did
insane what they've done.
Did you say the officials are in his back? I'm just kidding. But
probably.
In his back pocket. There's some really good
here's the thing.
out there.
Everything at some point, everything's got to go against them. But I do think they are so. Philadelphia does have a defense that can maybe slow them down in those key possessions, because what Kansas City does so well is when they need a first down, they have a play. Like they have a play. You saw that against Buffalo. We need a first down, so we're going to run this play that most teams are running the ball. They're running a misdirection and they get a first down. And it's okay. They're just better than everybody else at those types of things. But at the same time, everything seems to go their way, whether it's a guy, Buffalo, not saying it was easy catch, but guy drops a pass where that could have put him in field goal range and then they have a chance to win the game. I mean, over the last few years, every break seems to go their way, whether it's an official's call and a player on the other team, a coin flip even a few years ago, remember? So it's just they seem to get all the breaks, and some of it, though, is they make their breaks. And so I think they've been real. Philadelphia has a great offensive line, but I think and if they have to run the football and keep Mahomes off the field. But Kansas City's going to, Spagnuolo's great defensive coordinator, so it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really fun Super Bowl, and so that's exciting. I wanted to at least throw that out there. And then as a final note, throughout the whole season, and actually for the 4 years I've been doing Illini Guys, I talk about the journey, and that's one thing that I really love about basketball season more than any other sport, because it takes so long that you actually watch this team go through a journey. And we said from day one, this team had a very high ceiling. It also had a lower floor because of the age and inexperience. And we've seen both sides of that, but I'm still excited about what this team can do. And if they use good judgment on their shot selection and they don't continually hand the ball over to the other team, they've got a shot to be competitive with just about everybody. But they do have to do those things if they want to be competitive.
Now's the time to do it. If they're going to do it, now's the time.
Yeah, I agree. I think they have the opportunity is there, but it's time to start clicking.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. That's one thing. I just had to throw that out there. And then the other thing is we just over time, we've said you're going to have these rough moments, and they've happened, and now they're coming through on the other side. And I'll tell you what, when Riley and KJ are both hitting, man, that's as good an offensive 1-2 punch as Illinois has ever had in my lifetime, I think. Can you guys remember when those guys are on? But we've had some good ones over the years. I'm not certain if anybody was any better when they get on a roll.
I can think of some that parents won't remember, but I'm never going to forget the Kenny Battles and Nick Anderson and Kendall Gill days. I'm sorry, man, because when they got on, when they were scoring 18, 19, 20 points a game, that was fun to watch. I got it. I'm never going to forget that group and disrespect them. It's good to see what those kids are doing, But on top of the fact they were scoring, they were, as Dickie V called them, high risers. That was a special group, man. I've got to give them their props.
I'll go, yeah, perimeter guys, I would say. I think that their interior team of Io and Kofi was okay too.
Exactly.
Not too bad. But two perimeter guys that can go off, and they do so much on their own. It's really impressive what they're able to do. I just wish they had Terrence Shannon alongside him, so then they could get all the fast break points too. And oh my.
Yeah. All right, folks. With that, we are going to say, please go ahead and make sure you get a chance to like this. Make sure you get a chance to share on your social media. That really helps us. 5-star ratings help us. And subscribing to the IlliniGuys.com YouTube channel is huge. Subscribing to our podcast helps us. And of course, the mothership is IlliniGuys.com, where you get a couple of stories. We give you stories every day on what's going on in Illini sports. And then you get the message boards where you get a lot of the inside information. So please make sure you go there and subscribe there. It's a great community. It's a lot of fun. And as the basketball season clicks on after the season, it's going to be hot because it's portal time. And when it comes to portal combat, nobody knows more and nobody's closer to this staff and what's going on around the Big Ten than Sturdy and Ked. So it's a great time to join the Illini guys, and we would love to have you. With that, folks, we will say farewell. We will be back at halftime of the UCLA game, Illini Guys Halftime Live, and we will be back right after the game with Eye on the Illini Live. We look forward to that. Until Tuesday night, go Illini.